Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our new episode on the economics. So today we're going to learn what is economy. And first of all, we're going to look at the supply and demands in the markets as a subject of economics. Then we're going to look number 2, national economy and the GDP, the gross domestic product, GDP. Then third, we're going to look at the government interventions or government aids. Fourth, it will be on the global trade and a comparative advantage, like sharing is caring, try to compare different countries or sharing. Then the fifth point, we're going to look at the inflation and purchasing power. The inflation is just the rise of price for a specific time or given period. Then 6, we're going to look at the unemployment and economic health. After that, I'm going to give a quick summary at the end, just as I usually do in all the episodes, just to sum up really what we learned in each episode. So are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Tighten your belt and let's begin. So what is economy? When someone says economy, what does it mean? So in the beginning first, we have our philosophical ideas or ideologies. After that, we have ideology or ideological. First is a philosophical, ideological. Third, from ideological, we form different political ideas. After that, we have economy or economic. Then we have culture, which acts as a container. After that, we have the society. So this culture sits on the society. And then we have the land. So in every land, you have to expect a different society, different culture, different economics, politics, ideology, philosophies. And every land also needs to have its own history. So history encompasses everything. Nothing can escape away from history. So all the subjects have got history, which means the past, the present, and the future. That's all about history, the start of history. But in our case, we're focusing on the economics. So politics is simply the interaction between two or more people. Whenever you interact with someone else, it's already part of politics. So when you say you don't want to involve in politics, you actually are doing politics daily. Economics is like the interaction between people and nature. When you start to use and sometimes misuse nature, that's the meaning of economics. And since nothing and no one can go outside of nature, economics is bigger or much larger compared to politics altogether. So in this case, I usually say one of my quotes, economics is the backbone of politics. So we're going to focus on the economy. So when I say economy, what do I mean? It's all about supply and demand. Supply and demand of what? So it is demand of goods and services. Some people asking for you, then you supply it. The demands of people, have to meet their demands. So after that, we have like the GDP, the gross domestic product, which is like the total of all the goods and services provided or produced in a given period or time. Since we live in the 3D, third dimension, it's all about space and time. So what is economy? Then we're going to begin, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, tighten belt. So economy refers to the system by which a society organizes and manages its resources, production, distribution, and consumptions of goods and services. So it is when the society organizes and manages its own resources, like the production of goods and services as well, distribution and consumptions of those goods and services. So it encompasses also all activities related to the creation of wealth, the allocation of resources, and the functioning of markets, including governments, businesses, and individuals. All of that is economy. So no one can go outside of nature. So the economy can be analyzed at various levels, like including local, which is like territorial. We have national, like any country, the individual countries, and then global or globally, which is like different continents really. We're talking on the global level. Talk with different countries. So we're going to look at the first one, or the practical examples in economy in action. So the first one will be like supply and demand in the market. So the first example, it would be like, because I like to keep everything practical. So in the first example, this like in a local farmers markets, the price of apples may fluctuate, go up and down. There's a meaning of fluctuations. So based on the supply, like how many apples the farmers brings to sell. So there's the supply, is how many apples the farmers bring to sell. And demand, like the demand of people, like how many customers want to buy those apples or to buy the apples. So if there's a surplus or addition or more than the needed of apples, the price may drop. So if you have more than the needed apples, the price is going to drop because the supply is less than the supply is more than the demand. But But like conversely, if apples are scarce, like less, but many people want them, the price will rise. So when there's less goods or services and there is more demand, then the price will go up, will hike, skyrocket. So real life impact of that, of supply and demand in the market. So this reflects the basic principles of how economic balances or balance the availability of goods with the desire from them, like for them, like influencing like prices and consumer behaviors. So in the case of supply and demands, as a supplier or the seller, you have to understand the consumer's behaviors as well, what they want or what they need. What if the consumer is asking, needing, that is what you have to supply at the correct, using the correct amount as well. So the second one, I'm going to touch on the national economy and the GDP, which is just the gross domestic product, the meaning of GDP. So a practical example of that, it will be like a country's economy is often measured by its gross domestic product or GDP, which represent like the total value of all goods and services produced over a specific time. That's the meaning of GDP. So it's take all the goods and services produced in a given time or specific time. Like for instance, since I live in Europe, I'm going to give some examples from all from the countries in Europe. Like for example, Germany's economy is known for its strong industrial sector, like particularly in the automotive or automobile, like cars production, manufacturing, which significantly contributes to its GDP, like the gross domestic product. So they're heavily based like in the industrial sectors, like the cars manufacturing. So the real impact of that, or the real example, it will be like a growing GDP or gross domestic product, typically indicates a healthy economy with more jobs. So the higher the GDP, more jobs as well, and the stable the economy is likely to be. So higher incomes and improve the living standards as well, while a shrinking GDP may signal economic trouble. So the opposite is also true, economic trouble and the rise of unemployment as well. So number 3, we're going to look at the government intervention or government aids. So the example of that, like during economic downturns, like government often implements like stimulus packages to boost the economy. So when the economy drops down, the government often give like stimulus, something really to trying to raise up the stimulus packages to boost the economy. So they have to give some type of aid, financial aid, to maybe investors, maybe sellers. Like for instance, like during the COVID-19, the pandemic, many government provided like financial aid to bring businesses and individuals to prevent economic collapse, like small businesses and larger businesses as well. So real impact, the real life impact, it will be like government actions, like lowering interest rates as well. So the interest rate is like the mechanism which they use to control the inflation. So inflation is just the rise of price in a given time or given period. Like lowering interest rates or increasing public spending as well can help stabilize an economy during a crisis and promote recovery as well. So when they lower the interest rates or like increase like public spending, it will help to stabilize the economy during crisis or market crisis and promote recovery of the market. So the fourth point is based on the global trade and the comparative advantage. So it's all about sharing, trying to buy like in different countries as well, diplomacy. So the practical example of that, like let's say in Brazil. So Brazil has a comparative advantage in producing coffee due to its like favorable climate as well. They have good climate there in Brazil for coffee, which is a hot climate, like in Africa as well. So while Japan excel like in producing electronics, so by trading these goods, like those two countries, both the countries benefit from like a specialization and can access products more efficiently than if they produce everything domestically. So instead of trying to produce everything in your own country, when you don't even meet those standards or the needs, you have to try to go outside as well, or different countries, neighboring country, and try to see whatever they're producing. And if you need it, you try to exchange. So you give them coffee, they also produce electronics for you, electronic devices. So the real life impact of that, it will be like the global trade allows like countries to optimize their resources as well. Optimization is like trying to go back to the source, keeping everything standard, like leading to lower cost of consumers and like a greater variety of goods and services available worldwide as well, which is an advantage. So it's good as well in the case of global trade or global market. So the fifth point, we're going to look at the inflation and purchasing power. So the inflation is just the rise of prices over a specific time or period. So a quick example of that, like if the inflation rate in a country rises, so if the prices hike, goes skyrocket, the cost of goods and services also increases. So they're directly proportional to each other. Like for example, if the inflation in the UK, United States, United Kingdom rises, let's say by 5%, the price of groceries, fuel, and housing may go up as well simultaneously. Like as a result, the purchasing power of consumers decreases because the prices goes up. The power of the consumers also goes up. The purchasing power of the consumers goes down, decreases. Like meaning they can buy less with the same amount of money. So imagine if something was like €5 or £5 or £10. Now the price is hike, you eat the inflation. Instead of buying the same thing at which you bought like at 10, you have to buy at 20 or doubles or 15, something like that. So the real life impact, it will be like inflation affects everyday life by reducing the value of money. So when the prices goes up, the value of the money also is lost. So the focusing on the price is not directly proportional to the value. So when the inflation hits, the money loses its own value, like making it harder for people to afford their usual standard of living as well. So this is why people hate inflation. The longer it goes, the more demonstration and protest. People start going to the street and start demonstrating or protesting as well. So in the case of the inflation, it's not good because money usually loses its value. So number 6, it will be on the employment and economic health as well. So the example of that, let's say in Spain, so during the 2008 financial crisis or the Wall Street market crisis, so unemployment rates soared, like leading to decreased consumer spending and economic stagnation. So in the case of stagnation, economic being held down, behind, that's all about stagnation, blockages really. When you don't have the money moving around or when the money loses its value, everything becomes worthless really. So high unemployment rates indicate that many people are out of work. So if you have more people unemployed, that means there are more people actually out of work as well. So like reducing overall productivity and economic growth. So if you have more people unemployed, then you're going to expect less productivity as well and economic growth, which means you have less production or less goods and services, less supply than demands. So real life impact as well. So you have like unemployment affects individuals' income. So unemployment affects individual incomes, and well-being as well, and can slow down like the entire economy by reducing demand for goods and services. So in the case of employment, it reduces demands of goods and services at the same time. So ladies and gentlemen, what can you say in conclusion about all of this, the inflation, about the supply and demand, the national economy, GDP, government aid, or government intervention, the inflation, the consumer purchasing power as well, or the unemployment, economic growth, or economic health? So in this case, the interest rate is like the mechanism which the government use really to control the inflation. And instead of just keep printing money as well can be another mechanism to try to balance the economy or try to balance the value of the money. We try to give to investors as well, small businesses as well as large businesses. So in that case, you're trying to balance between the supply and demand, not too much, nothing in excess, not too much supplies of goods and services when the demands are actually less. So the supply have to meet the demand of the people, the consumers. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, the economy is a complex system that affects every aspect of our lives, from the prices we pay for goods to the availability of job or employment, like understanding how economy function, like how economies function and the factors that influence them, such as the supply and demand, like government policies as well. In this case, government policy might use interest rate, printing money, or selling bonds to the Fed as well, the federal government. And global trade helps individuals make informed financial decisions and navigate the economic landscape. So what you're trying to understand really is trying to understand how it works, how the economy works, the factors also which affect the economy or which make it stable, which make it unstable in that case, So the interest rate here is like the mechanism really can lower it down. So when the interest rate is being lowered down, that means you're encouraging more people to come to borrow, because the interest rate is lower. When you increase the interest rate, let's say it was on 5%, it goes up to 10% or 15%. So in that case, you're actually discouraging people from borrowing because the interest rate is so higher. No one will come to borrow. And when the inflation hits, you have to try to control the interest rate. You can lower it down to zero or start printing money as well. So all of those factors, which are good, which the government usually use in daily life in the case to prevent inflation. So you have to think as well different systems. Some people are like policies, like some people are based on capitalism, other people socialism. So it's all about things like that. So ladies and gentlemen, this will be the end of our new episode on the economy. So thanks for watching. Keep sharing, like, comment, and I like your comments. Keep coming, financial comments, economy comments, anything really. So you keep your comments as well down and your suggestion of what topic you want to see next. So thanks for watching. Ciao.